And people who are not familiar with the U-2, it essentially looked like a flying cross because the wingspan is so wide. And before they were painted black, they were silver, and they would reflect the sun. And so there was no such thing as an aircraft that could fly at 70,000 feet. A commercial aircraft flies at like 25,000 feet at the time.
Hmm.
So of course people saw this, and I show documents I've looked at and cite documents in my book that people call up their congressman convinced they saw a UFO because that's exactly what it looked like. And then I also have seen documents and report about them of the CIA's UFO office out at Area 51 where they realize this is terrific. People think it's a UFO. Better that than having our program revealed to the Soviets. Now, does that mean every UFO sighting in the history of mankind is a U-2 spy plane? Of course not. Of course not. But it raises the question that you are raising about what a deception campaign actually is.
Yeah. What would be your best guess? What kind of technology do you think that they're working on? Things that would just blow our minds?
Well, of course. I mean, there are that's the DARPA book I wrote, which is, DARPA's job is to create the vast weapon systems of the future. They work on programs that are 25 years ahead of what we see. And they don't necessarily reveal them until they have to. The F-117 fighter jet, um, that program was, no one knew about it for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So you have to, again, does that mean everything is unclassified? Of course not, or not known. But I personally, listen, people love to talk about UAPs and, Tic Tacs, and I get it. I get
I
it.
want them to be real. If I'm being
It,
honest, I would like to meet the Green Man. Let's go have a coffee or a beer. I think if you are out there, you probably could have destroyed us. Let's just talk. Let's get along.
I, I just happen to find the actual things that human beings do and keep secret so much more interesting than the fantasy part of it.
Yeah, I would agree
Because
with that too.
it is I mean, if you read my book, Surprise, Kill, Vanish, about the CIA's paramilitary operations, you can't believe what people are capable of. At least I can't. I like writing about high technology programs, but also human programs, like where people do things that involve such courage and strange, combination of physical prowess and intellectual capacity that's beyond and sort of daring that is, leave out the morality of it. The moral judgments of it, rather, because again, everyone's doing what they're doing at the behest of the president. But those operations are just stunning to me in terms of what human beings are capable of and will actually do in the name of national security.
Yeah, I'm peripherally familiar and have a few people, friends that have worked in that world, and it is it is an occupation that few would understand the demands for sure.
And it also just, if you're me, a reporter, and again, I spend a lot of time with, sometimes like with Billy Waugh, I traveled with him to places he operated around the world, like Cuba and Hanoi, because I wanted to hear firsthand his experiences. And he would, sometimes those memories would come back to him when we were traveling internationally. But I am very interested in the capacity of the human being and the extremes that some people go to. And also keep in mind that I never forget that many of the people I work with are acutely aware that all of their friends died and they survived. And that kind of a person has, I think, a lot to offer the rest of us, if they are a thoughtful person, as the sources that I'm interested in reporting on, prove to actually be.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that. Two more questions for you today, Annie. First, what do you think, out of everything that you have encountered, what do you think would surprise the American people the most when it comes to technology being developed by private aerospace companies for use, military purpose, or that nexus coming together? Is there anything that stands out you think would shock people the most?
I mean, there's so many examples. I'm going to flip it back to a reverse concept, right? Which is what always surprises me is as technology advances so radically, some things remain the same. And that's usually what really interests me.
Hmm.
I'll give you an example that the ICBM, which was developed in the 50s by the Nazi scientists, by the way, essentially is the same technology that it was then. And this is the weapon system that will bring about nuclear Armageddon. This is the weapon system, the ICBM, the intercontinental ballistic missile, that can get from a launch pad in Moscow to the United States in 26 minutes and 40 seconds. This is technology that cannot be redirected or recalled. And so when I think about sort of an analog systems, and I mean that metaphorically, but also literally, and I think about advanced technology systems, it just always brings me right back to like the mystery of being human, you know? And then I tell people to just go watch Chimp Empire and,
It's a great
really,
show. It's a great show.
right? And just go like, somebody once said to me the other day, what's the origin story of Ground Branch? Ground Branch is, of course, the
CIA
CIA's
paramilitary. Yeah.
paramilitary organization. And I said, Chimp Empire.
It's not a bad answer, actually. Well, okay. Final question for you today. What's your next book? I feel like you have a couple lined up, but do you have like a top 3 racked and stacked? What are you going to be looking at next?
Oh, I'm deep into it, and it's gonna, it'll publish next year. Um, but I will not say,
Okay.
because the mystery for the big reveal should be there. But what I can say is that it is, you could almost see it as part two of nuclear war.
Fair enough. I like leaving the viewers with a little cliffhanger there. Anything else you would like to close out with? I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're coming to the end of it, and I really appreciate your insight so far.